Okay, really quick, I wanted to provide a little bit of context for what you're about to watch. The other day, I sat down with a friend of a friend because she's starting the process of writing her first book. I wanted to help her out in any way that I could by letting her ask questions and pick my brain. She agreed to let me record it and post the conversation so that I can share it with you all. By the way, if you are someone that you know is thinking about writing a book, you are going to get a lot out of the conversation because we cover a ton of ground. But also, I'm going to drop a link to a form in the description and I'll pin it in the comments. I'm thinking about helping more people with the book writing and publishing process. So get in touch and I will let you know if and when I open doors to that. Anyway, here is the whole conversation in its entirety, moments after we met for the first time. I'll post Becky's social channels in the description as well. Apologies for the webcam quality footage, but the audio is great. So otherwise, enjoy and let me know if you found this type of video helpful in the comments. Awesome. Okay, so we just chatted for a couple quick minutes. Really nice to meet you, Becky. And I'm really excited to talk to you about Kindle. Well, I assume potentially we'll get into that. Self-publishing, is this the route you're thinking about for your book?
I think so. I'm not 100% sure, but I think so. Yeah.
If you can get a mega book deal, more power to you.
Right.
But it's not easy. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm super excited. As maybe Kelsey told you, excuse me. I've self-published 3 books in 4 years. I always say it's one of the hardest and most fulfilling things I've ever done. It's super difficult, but it's a lot of fun, especially if you're really passionate about the topic or the book or anything else. And the benefits go so far beyond just like putting out a book and hoping to sell that book, as I'm sure you're aware. So yeah, just to hop in, tell me about what inspired you to seek out writing your own book. And if you're willing, just sort of, what is it about?
Yeah. I mean, I swore I would never write a book. And it's feedback that I've gotten over the years is that I should have a TV show. I should have a book. I should have I do a lot of different things, and I'm an interior designer and visual merchandiser by trade, and I'm really, really passionate about design and around kind of a specific design principle and philosophy. And my sister has been bugging me to write a book for years. Every time that I would, kind of come up with something, she'd go, "Oh, that would make a great book. You should write a book." And I kept saying I wasn't going to do it. And then one day she asked me, "What is stopping you? Like, why do you keep saying no to this idea of writing a book?" And I said, there were a few things for me at that time. One of them was like, I don't know how to write a book.
Right. Start there.
And I don't, and I'm not sure that I've got it in me to like learn that entire new skill set, and like, when would I make the time for that? And so that felt like a barrier. I also felt a little bit like I feel like I'm an expert at my ideas of how I would design, but I don't know that I would call myself like some, I haven't won awards. I haven't, I don't have all these different certifications. So who am I really to write a book and, put that out? Who would like read it? So she talked me off of that ledge as well. And then, we just kind of started talking about like, if I did write a book, what would it be? Yeah. And the more I talked about it, the more I was like, this is a book. I should definitely write this book.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm super excited to hear about it. Yeah. First of all, I just got to say, I think you just described that imposter syndrome, right? Of just like, do I even have the skills, or like, who's going to care? Who's going to read it? So we can definitely talk about that. Just to back up, when you say design, do you mean interior design? Okay, cool. I wasn't sure if it was digital or interior. Well, now I'm self-conscious, like looking behind me, like, oh no, she's, I'm going for the simple.
But see, that is exactly how this book idea kind of starts, because whenever I tell people that I'm an interior designer, I get one of 2 responses. The first one is, "Oh my gosh, I need you to come over to my house." And the second one is, oh my gosh, don't come to my house, because they don't want me to see
Yeah.
what where they live or how they're living. So to go into what my book idea is around, I don't even think about an aesthetic until pretty far along in a design process.
Mm,
I have a very human-centered design process for me, the spaces I create, and for my clients. And I start first with a million interviews and questions on how do people live and how do they want to feel in their space. Several years ago, I did a talk, like a TED Talk style talk in New York City on
super
this
cool.
topic.
Hmm.
And it was the first time that I sort of provided a framework for what I had always been doing. And for me, I really believe that you can manifest or create a
Hmm.
mood, a feeling, a mental wellness and mental health in a space that is designed for you. And so it always breaks my heart a little bit when people say like, oh gosh, don't come, because I think to myself then, but that's your home.
Right.
Your home should be the best expression of you and what you love and what you love to do and who you love. And so there shouldn't ever be an ounce of shame that comes with you and your home. It should literally be a reflection of you. And one of the best compliments that I've ever received is I had a friend over at my house, and she said, being in your home feels like walking around inside your heart. She
Oh,
said,
wow.
I can
Hmm.
literally feel who you are by being in your home. And I want to be able to share to other people how to do that.
Yeah.
I think spaces should make you feel before you ever. You can tell me that a space is pretty that I've designed, and that's nice, but it's way deeper than that. Here in our spa location, obviously a spa is meant to, provide a certain mood,
Yeah.
and to
Relax.
get people to relax, right?
Hmm.
Our sanctuary which is our private waiting area. It's really different than what I think you might expect a spa's
Hmm.
waiting area to feel like. I've literally had people cry when they're in the space because they just immediately feel safe and held and comforted and pampered,
Yeah.
and they can unplug from the world. So that's the book that I want to write. I want to write a book around creating a mood and a life that you want through the environments that you create for yourself.
Well, first of all, you've already sold me on trying out a spa. That's not, as I said earlier, it's not anything I've ever done, but I'm sold
Yeah.
at least on checking it out. So that is super cool. Thank you for sharing all that. Really resonates too. We bought our first home just over a year ago, and we went from a really small apartment, like
Mm-hmm.
750 square feet, um,
Mm-hmm.
to like 3x that or whatever it comes out to. And that was one of the first
Yeah.
things was, well, first of all, we got to fill the space. So that was sort of
Uh-huh.
this last year. But now we
Yeah.
have to style it. And so it's funny
Yeah.
to hear you describe all that, and thinking
Yeah.
about, actually what I heard from you is like not overthinking it might be the best
Yeah.
approach. Just go with what
Yeah.
feels right. And also maybe nothing's permanent, right? So maybe don't overthink it too much.
Yeah,
So
well, and this is the thing, is that honestly, when you design the way that I believe we should design, there's you can live with it for a very, very long time because you aren't following a style trend. You aren't following, a Pinterest board. You aren't following someone else's rules about what is right or wrong in interior design. You're genuinely following your own heart and the things that fulfill you. And so then that's a space you're going to want to be in for a really long time.
yeah, that's super awesome. So I think it feeds into a quick question I have, which is, who is your target audience for this
Mhm.
this book? Is this
Mhm.
someone like me, what I just described, maybe first time homeowner? Is it potentially a business? I mean, you're a business owner as well, and you
Mhm.
talked a lot
Mhm.
about that. So is there someone you've thought about, or have you even thought like specifically it's this person, this age, with
Yeah.
sort of like have that
Yeah.
avatar in your head? Or yeah.
Yeah. I think I have thought about this. I've done, some work with marketing teams and things
Hmm.
on these topics, so I know how important it is. For me, I would want a homebody, kind of a home enthusiast, and someone who is probably very much in like a growth mindset, probably in the health and wellness space or the manifesting space, or
Yeah.
something around those lines. People who kind of really care about emotional intelligence,
Yeah.
because a lot of this work is around how well you know yourself, how honest you can be with yourself. And then I also come from a hospitality background. And so entertaining is a
Hmm.
huge part of my
Yeah.
own home. And so it would be for people who want to share their home, probably, and kind of how to do that. I don't know if that is, I could continue to like boil into that, but that's the
Yeah.
start of it.
No, you're way ahead of most people. I don't think in writing most of my books, I sort of had like where they might be financially in their life because it's all personal
Mm-hmm.
finance, but I never
Mm-hmm.
really, and that's something I regretted looking back. I never really honed in on like who it was for. It's really easy to sort of write to yourself because
Yeah.
it's your ideas. You've been,
Yeah.
especially if you're writing about your own experience. But that's something that's really great that you've already thought about who that person
Yeah.
is that you're writing for.
I
It's
think
gonna,
I think especially in some ways it's probably going to be relevant for a lot of people, because like most people, because a lot of this crystallized for me coming out of the pandemic, when we all spent
mm,
so much
yeah.
time in our home.
Oh yeah.
And I think a lot of people, and it really impacted all of our mental health and
Hmm.
our mental and emotional wellness. And so I think people really want to feel good,
Yeah.
and they've spent so much time in their home that and they want to, have their home feel good too.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So you also have checked another major box, which is you're super enthusiastic about the topic, which I love so much, and you seem to know it
Mm-hmm.
inside and out. So you're off to a really great start. But speaking of, so where are you in the book process? Is this the
Right.
first time you've talked about it? Is this something you've already outlined and started writing? Yeah, just
Right.
sort of share some of that.
I don't have a complete outline. I have a few Google Docs started
Cool.
that are brain dump,
Yep.
type
Yep.
things. I have one titled like possible titles and like overarching themes. And then I have one that's around an outline. And I
Yeah.
have one that I titled Just Start Writing. And I
Mhm. Love
every
that
once in
one.
a while, every once
Yeah.
in a while I go into that document and I'll just like type, 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 type.
Yeah.
But it's very, very like infantile right now. And I mean, I really only decided to do this 3 weeks ago. I want to
Oh,
say something like
wow.
that.
Cool. Yeah.
So right now I'm working on telling people, like I'm saying, I've gone from saying in that 3 weeks, I've gone from saying, I think I'm going to write a book, or
Right.
I'm thinking about writing a book, to saying now I'm writing my first book. That's what I
So
keep
cool.
telling people. I'm
Yeah.
writing my first book.
The
And
identity piece to it and owning it is such a cool thing. I remember sharing it, like
yeah,
how nervous I was to just like, I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off and put it on my social channels and
yeah,
just
yeah.
avoid the response for like 24 hours because I'm so nervous. And I bet you probably similarly to what I experienced, have you been experiencing a lot of positivity and excitement
Yeah.
when you share
Yeah.
that?
As soon as I start talking about it, and probably to your point about how passionate I am about it, um, people are like, I want to read that
Yeah.
book. I'm
So
definitely
cool.
gonna. Yeah. Yeah.
The other
Yeah.
really cool milestone, speaking of identity in this process, is when you admit to yourself, like, hey, I'm an author, which
Yeah.
that like literally never, I think a
Wow.
friend of mine like introduced me once or something like that and called me an author
Yeah.
after I'd written my first book. And I was like, well, if no one reads it, am I still an author? I never,
Right.
accepted
Right.
that. And so, yeah, now I put it in like bios and stuff and it's super
Yeah.
cool and fun.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've talked a little bit about where you are in the process. Really good to know you're just a few weeks into making that decision too, because the last thing I want to do is
Mhm.
overwhelm you and bombard you with too much
Mm.
information. I'm happy to be a resource too in the future as you need. This is one of my favorite things to talk about.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because for some people it changes. Some people it is a bucket list thing, but for someone like you, which is similar to me, it was just like, I have this information and I'm really just passionate and excited to share it. And I never knew it would lead to writing more or starting a YouTube channel or doing like all kinds of other things. So it can also be a catalyst to sort of jumpstart something else. Not that you don't have enough already going on in your life, that's for sure.
Well, and that was why I didn't want to write a book, right? Because I'm like, how am I going to fit that in here? But it encapsulates everything that I already work on.
Right.
And so in some ways, it might make my life a little bit easier and helps me because I can just be like, literally read the book, like just read the book, and then you're going to be caught up on what I'm talking about.
Yep. It's so fun now. I use it as like a resource when, someone's asking me about, and money is a hard thing to talk about. And so I can tell when they don't really want to ask what they really want to ask. And it's really easy to just point them to one of my books or a specific section in the book, or in my case, a specific video that can help you out. So it's really cool. And then the other thing is, as you start to brainstorm and think through that outline, think about all the things, and you already have shared this, but like people comment on about your knowledge or the things that people go to you for and ask questions about. Right. That's definitely one of those, it's got to be in the book. This is the thing everyone always has an aha moment about. Like earlier when I was listening to you describe your space as a reflection of yourself and your identity, and that really already helped me unlock, like, stop overthinking this. Right. So stop looking at Pinterest over and over again. Not that I do that, but maybe I do sometimes. Cool. So how can I help you? I'm sure you have tons of questions.
Oh my gosh.
Where would you like to start? And we can, so there's a lot of different pieces to this. We can talk about, self-publishing, that route, because that's a route I know really well, and sort of the logistics of just where to do that, how to do that. We can talk about the book production process. How do you actually, once this thing is written, because that part's on you, I can't do a whole lot to help you there. Once this thing is written, how do you package this up, and how do you literally launch it out there? There's also the marketing component. Or we can just talk through sort of your content, your ideas, your structure. We could even share screens, it's totally up to you. So I just want to help in whatever.
I mean, I definitely want to talk about the self-publishing, and I definitely want to talk about, like, it does seem, funny little details, things that you don't think about. But like I said, I've started in a couple of Google Docs, but then my book is going to be really visual. I'm going to have a lot of photography and little sidebar, like quotes or tips or, that aren't just, it's not just block text.
Yeah. Okay.
And so like, I'm like, should I be writing it in Canva? Like, how do I,
Yep. This is good. Okay. I'm totally taking notes.
Yeah. Like from a layout perspective, how do I do that? And then marketing. Yeah. Too. I do want to talk about, I have already started it. This has actually been super helpful for me from a social media perspective, because even though I haven't shared that I'm writing a book, it just gave me a very clear vision on who I want to be, what I want to be saying on social media. And so just in the last 10 days, maybe, I've really started to try to grow my TikTok and my Instagram audiences.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
And I've already gained some like 500 new followers or something like that in a week.
Wow, that's so cool. On which, on TikTok you did that?
On about 300 on TikTok and about 250 or 200, almost 300 on Instagram.
Wow.
And
those are two platforms I don't know. So I really admire that you've done that, because they seem from afar really daunting to sort of find any audience or foothold. So that's really cool.
I mean, it's helpful that what I do is visual, and those are visual mediums. And so I think that that's the right audience for me. And then in addition to doing that, through our mastermind, there's an email marketer, and she was like, you need to be building an email list today. And so I've started to pull, I've gotten on Flowdesk now, and I'm, because that's the kind of the most visual, like aesthetic email platform, and so I'm building like a welcome sequence, and I'm all of that stuff. So
Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to talk about and just jump in on is simplifying sort of where your attention is, I think is super important. Especially, I know you're a business owner, you're used to wearing so many different hats. I know you're a part of mastermind groups and all kinds of things. And so, and you're similar to me. I like to constantly be doing different projects and stuff like that. But when it comes to writing the book, I think the thing that helped me the most was to just focus on the content for as long as I could. Because ultimately, like, that's what you're going to be, at least for me, the most proud of looking back. I mean, number one, just getting it done, of course, but the content in the book itself and feeling really proud, because I will say I still look back at the first book, the second book, and there's always going to be little things you wish you could tweak or do different. And by the way, you can with self-publishing, which is kind of fun.
Oh, that's cool.
But really, making sure you have everything in there you wanted to say and that you're going to be proud of looking back on. Content, like, what's the phrase? Cream always rises to the top too, right? I think a lot of people overthink the title, the cover, the marketing, like all this stuff. And it's something I have to remind myself of with just making YouTube videos, is just make great content. Number one, everything else should hopefully fall into place. So, it's probably going to be really hard for you to not think about marketing, not building a list. And I'm not saying don't do that, because it's kind of natural, I think, for you. But I would really almost go into a hole and just think through, nail this outline, start that doc that you said, just right. I love that so much. And start putting pen to paper, because there's going to be that moment in the process where you're writing it, where you actually believe it yourself. This is going to happen. And it's, by the way, it's kind of good. I'm really, really excited about that. Right. And that's sort of the moment you can start thinking about marketing and getting the word out there. But I think in the beginning, one of the mistakes I see people make is just probably overthinking all the different components. I don't know what I don't know. And I'm like, just write the book. You're going to figure all that out, and you're going to have resources and help and support. So that would be that. I don't know if that's helpful at all, but
no, that is, because I mean, I'm like, do I block out a day? Do I batch it? How do you write a book?
How do you do it? Yeah. So outlining is key. I think that is huge. And it sounds like you have a good start on that. But one way to think of it so that you can tackle it too is, and this isn't helpful, it depends on your genre and all kinds of different things, but especially since it's not fiction or something like that, thinking of it as like blog posts, not like a chapter in this giant book, right? And trying to sort of just knock out that draft is the hardest part. So just once you have that outline done, sort of just think of these as little articles. And I was overwhelmed thinking, for it to be a book that anyone's going to pick up, has to be 100+ pages, right? I kept thinking I had this, it had to be this long minimum. And I got really fixated on those little details. And I wish I wouldn't have done that. I wish I would have just said, what do I want to say? No more, no less. And if it's, because you probably read great books too, that are 40 or 50 pages long. I have a couple right behind me that are super short. And as long as it's memorable and good quality content, same thing with YouTube videos. Doesn't matter how long your video is, as long as you're just delivering on content the whole time. So that's one thing, is don't get fixated on that. Outlining is critical. Thinking of it as little pieces. Everything else is really going to be up to you. I tried to knock out or block out entire weekends, right? But I found that method didn't make me feel fulfilled or happy. And I kept hitting that writer's block. And other days I felt inspired, or I had this great idea when I was at the gym, and I ran home and just out of nowhere, in an hour, I basically wrote 2 chapters, and it was really, really satisfying. So I think you obviously know yourself. But whenever you're feeling it, I got to put this down on paper, grab your computer, grab your phone. I was once killing time. at a restaurant. And I was sitting there and I had this idea and I really wanted to work on it. I just pulled out my phone. That's all I had. And I probably looked so awkward all by myself already, by the way, at a restaurant, working, diligently typing away. People are like, what is this guy doing on his phone? But when the moment hits, I would just say ride the wave and try to go with it.
Yeah, that's good. Just kind of be ready
Yeah. Yeah.
to go ahead and do that, like whether it's on my computer or whatever. Yeah.
And the challenging thing I think for you is I think you have a unique challenge ahead of you, which is the images you wanted to include. Um, we haven't really talked about the process of self-publishing or the logistics or how royalties work or any of that stuff, because it's not really worth going too far into that right now. But I will say the way it works on Amazon, if you decide to go through Kindle Direct Publishing, is the more images you have in the book, and I want to make sure I get this right, because I haven't looked at this in a while, but from what I remember, it affects your the print-on-demand printing fees cost. And so any images is going to eat a little bit further into your side of the margin of the revenue you would essentially take away.
Got it.
So I remember in my first book, when I uploaded the manuscript, it identified I had like a dozen photos, and there were charts and graphs that felt super essential for my topic. And then I saw that removed X amount, and I'm like, wow, I'm going to make 50 cents a book. Like, this is crazy. And you're not probably in it for the money. Like I wasn't either. It's a bonus.
Right.
But I was really surprised to learn about that. So that's one thing you might actually want to look into now, just a little bit. Okay. I'm happy to dig this up a little bit and point you in the right direction, just because it might, and the only reason I say this is it might actually influence the direction that you take the book.
Right.
Like if you know, hey, I shouldn't include more than 10, 12 images. Maybe that ends up being one a chapter, and that's fine. But that would impact it if you were thinking, hey, this is actually going to be half pictures and half words. Maybe that sort of changes the way you look at it. So
yeah.
I'm not sure if you have questions on that. And I hope that's not like bad news. I would hate for you to
but it's definitely good to know.
Yeah.
Like now. Yeah.
Yeah. I was really surprised about that. And I remember like agonizing over which images to take out. And then for me, that got me like close to that 100, like down to like that 100-page like mental barrier I had, where I was like, no, I'm at 110. Now I'm only be 100. And so I was really frustrated at the end, just trying to figure out which ones to pull out, and that it was shortening my book. And I think there's something to be said for like how long the book is and how that impacts printing and royalties as well. But I don't know the logistics. I've done 100, pretty much 200 and 300. And I feel like at the end of the day, the length doesn't matter much when it comes to royalties, now that I'm thinking through it, because the longer the book is, usually the higher you can price the book. So even if they take a slightly higher percentage on royalties, and again, I'd have to look all this up, it ends up shaking out. Like I make almost the same no matter which book you bought, even though one is 3 times the length of another one. So another reason not to overthink making this like super long or anything like that, that for the most part won't impact.
Yeah. No, that's good too. You know, what's wild is that I honestly haven't even thought about making money. That's
the best part. Yeah.
I've thought about a book could lead to, speaking engagements or, like other revenue streams because of the book. But the book itself, I haven't really thought a lot about, like,
isn't that funny? Yeah.
What do I even expect or hope to make?
Yeah. And it wasn't, and when I said it's the best part, I don't mean the money is the best part. I mean that when I see people that are doing it from a place of just like passion and wanting to share this in whatever format that makes the most sense to them, that money is a total bonus. I actually, and I'm happy to talk about the money stuff too, fully transparently, but I'll just say that for my first book and probably even my second book, I think I broke even, like at best. And that's because I'm a marketer by day and trade as well. And I got really into learning about Amazon ads. And so, especially in the beginning, when I'm trying to get some reviews and just get it in the hands of people, I was willing to pay a little bit more. So I was running ads. You can actually run it through the Kindle Direct platform. A little bit of a learning curve. So I'm happy to help you if you do decide to go that route. But I decided about a year ago to just shut them off completely. Just as a part of the budget, I just wasn't feeling good about, and just also curiosity, like what happens if I just turn off all my ads? My sales probably went down like 20 or 30%, but now I get to keep revenue. And so I wouldn't say it's until the last year when I turn those off. Now, if you want to really learn ads, you can probably optimize the heck out of them and, nail it and figure out how to make an ROI on the ads and all that stuff. But I just didn't have the bandwidth or energy to like really deep
Yeah.
dive add.
Yeah.
So
I don't know that I would either.
yeah. And so, and then, you know, at the end of the day, like I said, I was breaking even. But since it wasn't about the money anyway, the benefits went so far beyond that. So,
Mm, mm.
speaking of, I was going to ask you earlier too, like what is your goal? Knowing now it's not money. What's sort of like your big goal with this? And I think I have an idea based on what you've said, but what's sort of like the
I
outcome
mean,
you're hoping for?
yeah, I think public speaking is definitely something that
Yeah.
feels pretty good for me and to me. I would love to be. I attend currently a bunch of different kind of conferences and things with work, and even though I've always said I would never write a book, and now I am, that is something that I every time that I'm in some sort of a conference where there's a speaker, I'm always like, I next year I want to be on that stage. I want to be doing
Yeah.
that. I want to be doing that. And so I
Cool.
think public speaking would be probably the goal. If there what my sister always, you know, she has this dream for me that there's some TV show situation happening.
Yeah.
That seems like crazy. But public speaking for sure.
That's really cool. It certainly can help you there. I know our mutual friend that introduced us, she, I think similarly wants to do public speaking, and that's why she also explored the route. Because when they introduce you on stage, you want them to be able to say, and author,
Yeah,
right?
right,
You know,
right,
plus, by the
right.
way, you can promote your book when you're up there. That's a cool advantage.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah,
That you have as well. Especially when you meet that person or hear them live or something, I think there's just a different connection and willingness to support because they delivered so much value to you. It's like, I got to check
yeah,
out their $7.99 or whatever it is.
yeah.
But so, you know, they call like your book, it sounds corny or whatever, because I think I heard this on a podcast, but your book can be like your business card.
Right.
Right. And for a long time, I heard the tip, always travel with a copy of your book. And I did that. And like maybe once I actually like talked about it and like gave it away. But other than that, it never came up. So needless to say, I stopped traveling with it. But based on what you do, always travel with a copy of your book. The cool thing too is if you end up going the self-publishing route and you do it through Kindle Direct Publishing, which I just say KDP, what I didn't realize going into the process is I was just hoping to produce an ebook. You know, that's what you hear a lot about is like, maybe I'd even give it away for free on like a website in exchange for an email address. I didn't really care. I just heard of ebooks and that seemed like the least amount of friction to sort of get something out. What I learned publishing that book was it wasn't that much more difficult once that book was done and the ebook was uploaded to go ahead and add the paperback option through Amazon. And so, you know, it's a different margin, but again, you're pricing it higher. So even if they take a bigger cut, it ends up being about the same. In fact, I might make more money. I might make something like $3.25 from an ebook and like $2.50 from a paperback. Don't remember for sure. But the paperback option, some people really want that. And what I've heard in talking like, oh, you can get an ebook or paperback. Some people are like, sorry, I only listen to audiobooks. So I was like, whoa, that's interesting. Like when I would put a video out about it or something, I'd get that comment. And so I figured out also through Amazon, you can turn your book into an audiobook as well. And so again,
that's actually interesting because when I was sharing about the book, there was at the mastermind, one of the girls said, and will you be the one to record it too? Because I could listen to you talk about this all day.
Right.
And I was record what?
Yep.
So that is something that I think I would want to have as have an audiobook version.
Yeah. And I mean, I definitely recommend recording it. Again, it was one of those things where my girlfriend at the time, wife now, was out of town. And I was like, I'm just going to lock myself in this room. I remember that. I did it in one day in my first book. A lot of learning curves, a lot of like, oh my God, I messed up the audio, got to re-record that, got to figure out GarageBand. But by the way, too, you learn a lot of cool new skills in writing a book, which is another reason I get really fired up about it. But yeah, and then like Amazon didn't accept it, I remember, because there was an issue with one chapter. I think it was raining during a chapter and it picked it up on the microphone. I had to go back and re-record that.
We live in Seattle. It's
I know,
going
right?
to rain.
Of course it's going to happen. And I didn't have, all I had was literally back then, and I still do, this $100 microphone. I just sat down and recorded it, and it was really satisfying. They sell not as well, and you don't get to control the pricing as much. Like sometimes I'll get an email that Amazon turned my audiobook pricing down a little bit or up a little bit. And so, because it's through a different wing of Amazon, it's ACX, which stands for Amazon Creation Exchange. Okay. And the reason it's called that is because it's also a resource you can go to where if you didn't have interest in doing your own audiobook, you can actually have someone else through ACX, Creation Exchange part of it, do your audiobook for you. And I think you like post the job and they can send you samples, and then you split all revenue. So any piece that's not Amazon's that would have been paid to you, it's just 50-50 with that narrator. So it's actually a really good side hustle idea for anyone out there looking for a side hustle that likes reading anyway.
Yeah. Actually, that's true.
A lot of people don't know
got a good voice.
If you got a good voice and you like reading, because what's cool about it is that person could make money passively for years and years and years to come, right? You do that once, which is what I talk about a lot, is passive income. So that's an option. I just thought that was really cool. And then after I published, I think it was my second book, Amazon came out with a beta program for hardcovers, actually. And so I threw my books in the mix, and all of them are now hardcovers as well. So I haven't done the audio for my third book, because that's the 300-page one that's going to be like 2 or 3 weekends.
Yeah.
But you can buy my book. And this is what's so cool is anybody that's like, oh, I only do audiobook. Great. I narrated it. It's on Amazon. You can check it out. Or I only do hardcovers for whatever reason. Yeah. So effectively you can turn one potential ebook if that's all I thought I was writing into 4 separate income streams, right? As options, which is really, really cool. So, it's
I do have since your expertise kind of is in passive income, like what are the passive income avenues, I guess, coming out of writing a book that I might not be thinking of have considered?
Right. So there's those ones I just mentioned because a lot of people just think about ebook and they don't realize they can do all 4 of those. Let's see, YouTube for me. That was something I started that you may or may not be interested in, but and it doesn't pay like lucratively. Actually, in your field, it could be interesting because of sponsorships. So if you're doing designs or showing off designs, it would make sense that a brand would want to tie in with you a little bit more than they would when I'm just talking about. Yeah,
there's actually there's a few things. So with Amazon, influencers can have a page on Amazon of products that they recommend, and then they get affiliate. They get a portion of every sale if you buy it through their thing. There's like a LTK, a like to know. If I'm saying like, I always use this product, or I did this room, and this is where I got the pillow, and this is where I got, whatever, or the paint color, those kinds of things.
Yeah, that's another great example. Amazon Associates is might be what you're describing, or it might be a little bit different. But when I would send before I like posted on social media, I was like, wait, isn't there this affiliate thing? And sure enough, it's free. And I was only promoting my book. It just kind of makes you a little unique link. And that's the link. Anytime I posted about my book, I would share that. And then I started learning, I can literally promote through this portal, anything on Amazon. And so now whenever I blog, and I don't know if that's against the rules or not, but whenever I blog on this site called Medium, if there's a link to a product, I'll just drop in an affiliate link. And I haven't got hand slapped yet. Any emails you send out, anything you're selling or talking about. Now the margin's tiny, right? We're talking.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
It depends on the category. I want to say books is actually a pretty okay margin, which is like you get 5% of the sale or something. Maybe it's 4%. They sort of lay it out every single category. And then, I was going to say, it's not just that product. If they click on it and buy, it's anything they buy for the next 24 hours. So it's kind of fun sometimes to log into my portal and see the sales from last month. It'll share the actual product, the price that person paid. It doesn't say who bought it. And then what amount of money you make on that. And so I probably make, I think a bad month, $20, a great month. I don't know if I've ever made 100, for example, but again, it's like, I was going to share that link anyway. It takes me 2 seconds to grab my personal one and send that out. And again, in a field like you're in, might be even more successful. So
Yeah.
that's definitely one that's not hard to learn. It doesn't cost money. We talked about Medium, YouTube. I'm trying to think what else. Speaking engagements, you mentioned. I'm like, what else do I do?
Did you, when you were writing the copy, like, did you just write in a Google Doc?
Oh, the production part of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
process?
yeah, like,
Yeah, that's exactly what I did.
uh-huh.
I outlined it of all things in Excel. I don't know why I did that. I just literally one day I was like, I'm going to try to outline. And I opened up an Excel
You're a money
document.
guy. That's a math guy. So
Yeah,
maybe.
right. Maybe that was why I did it. And then, yeah, I just started a Google Doc.
Mhm.
So I will recommend a program to you. It's called Scrivener. I think
Okay.
it's Scrivener, something like that. It's probably like $30 or $40, but it saved my life because it's much easier. So you can create like little tabs on the side. So it makes it really easy to flip between, because I was finding myself scrolling way up and
Yeah,
down
yeah,
and hitting
yeah.
Control F and trying to find a different section. So that alone, but also what's really nice is you can format your book in Scrivener itself. So I finished my book and I was like, great, now what do I do? And I had to
Yeah.
go on, since it was a Google Doc for the first one, I had to go on Fiverr and hire someone to format it.
Uh-huh.
20, and I'm not exaggerating, 23 versions later that he had made for me, because I kept finding mistakes, the project was complete. And it took probably 10 days. I mean, it was
Uh-huh.
only like $50 or something, but it was just that hassle of just constant back and forth, having someone else
Yeah.
format it. That would be another side hustle for anyone out there, because Fiverr quality wasn't great. So if I found
Uh-huh.
a more professional book editor,
Uh-huh.
or not editor, formatter, that would have really helped. So that's what's great about Scrivener, is it's kind of like when you're done, you hit compile book and it'll say, great, what format? Right. And because Kindle has like their specific one for ebook, or it's just a PDF because I'm going to upload it as a
Mhm.
paperback or hardcover,
Mhm.
etc. Just tell it what margins you want your book to be, and it spits
Mhm.
it out for you.
Mhm.
So I was
And does it
really
have
happy I
like,
learned how to do
because
that.
I do want it to be, again, I'm a visual person. It's a visual medium. I'm going to be thinking a lot about the photos, to your point, but I want there to be like little sidebar
Yeah.
quotes, tips,
Yeah.
does it is can I do that?
Yeah. I found Scrivener a little bit hard to figure out, like beyond the
Hmm.
basics. I was
Hmm.
struggling with certain things like adding the page numbers and the changing the margins and things that I
Hmm.
thought should have been more intuitive. I didn't think it was
Hmm.
that. So I'm going to look it up. There's another, I think it starts with a V. There is another book writing / formatting program that people seem to like a lot more. I
Okay.
do think it might cost $100 or $200.
Hmm.
Oh, it's going to kill me. It might even come up. I might come up with it here in a minute, but I'll look that one up and send that to you as well. That one, just from what
Okay.
I've seen on like YouTube videos and stuff, looks a lot easier to use, and that you might have more
Okay.
features, something like that.
Right. Okay.
Again, if you have to go through someone on Fiverr or something like that, there's nothing wrong with it. Just be careful
Yeah.
who you select.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
chose someone that didn't have hardly any reviews just because of the price and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, being frugal doesn't always pay off. That's
Yeah.
for sure. Um,
Sometimes you do get what you pay for.
yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So what else? What else are you wondering? These are all really good
Um,
questions.
uh, Timeline.
Yeah.
So I sat down at the beginning of the year, and I'm a Capricorn, so I'm pretty um, business minded all the time, I guess.
Hmm.
And I kind of run my life like a business a little bit. So I did a business plan for myself for the year,
Smart.
and I put October for book launch. With having absolutely no concept of
Hmm.
what it would take for me to write a book or do, like,
Yeah.
it, what's your advice on, how to challenge yourself, like because I think it should kind of scare me a little bit,
Yeah. It should. Yeah.
so that I'm not like, oh, I have time.
That's a really good question. I think for everyone it's different.
Yeah,
Since I have like a couple different stories, since my first book was about my story setting a financial New Year's resolution, I wanted to get it out by New Year.
sure,
And
sure.
I decided to write the book. I kid you not, like December 1st. So I'm like, I just thought it was gonna be a quick ebook,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
whatever, who
Right,
cares?
right,
I just want
right.
to do this as a personal challenge. I actually got the writing part of the book, at least a draft and everything done. Because again, it was about 100 pages, double spaced, whatever. I got a draft done within like 3.5 weeks.
Oh,
But I hadn't thought about anything else that like we're talking about today,
sure,
about where you
sure.
upload it, how you format it,
Yeah.
finding an editor, finding a book. Maybe we should talk about those two things, editor and book cover designer. Hadn't thought
Uh-huh.
through any of that. And so by the time I realized, oh, this isn't, I found myself making covers on Canva, and I was like, I think I showed them to my girlfriend at the time, and she was being encouraging. And I'm like, these are awful, aren't they? And she's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty bad. I had like a cartoon rocket going to a moon, and it was terrible. It was so bad. So that was when I had to reset and say, okay, I think I set a new date of like mid-February or something like that. And I did it. So my first one though, start to finish, I mean, that's only December, 2.5 months. Somehow I got that thing
Wow.
done, but I was obsessed and I didn't have a lot of other major distractions. I wasn't running my own business. I don't have kids, nothing like that. And so
Yeah.
I didn't have a YouTube channel, nothing else. That was
Uh-huh.
I'm going to do this. The second book, I took 15 months just to write a draft. And
Uh,
that was not the plan, right? It
uh,
was like, I'm going to get this done in probably 6 months because it's going to be longer. And I found myself, and maybe it was because it was the second book, overthinking it. Like, I got to be better than the
mm-hmm,
first. It's got to be better. It's
mm-hmm,
got to be better.
mm-hmm.
I don't want the sophomore slump as if my first one was, amazing. um,
Right. Love that.
and then the third one, I actually went about totally different. I don't know if I've shared this much, but I had been writing and making videos about the FIRE movement, financial independence, things like that for like 7 or 8 months. And so I'm writing scripts and I'm turning those scripts into blog posts. And I had been thinking I want to write a book about this, about the FIRE movement and make it as accessible as I can. But I don't have the time or bandwidth. I'm making 2 YouTube videos a week. I'm starting a new job, all the same. I'm getting married. And so I actually found someone I thought he was fantastic that helped me basically put this together. I said, here's my outline. Here's what I'm thinking. Here are all the articles. I want to pay you a little bit more than I would normally pay to just sort of make this happen.
Mm-hmm,
And so I didn't have to do a lot of the compiling or editing. I mean, I
mm-hmm,
definitely spent a lot of time with him and going through different revisions and things like that. So and I'm kind of sharing this just to show you there was 3 different approaches I took, which was the super
right,
fast,
right.
as fast as I could. The slow and steady wins the race. I want to make it perfect, something I'm really, really proud of. And that maybe actually makes me some money. Who knows? And then the third approach was
Yeah, yeah,
some people, I mean, you could literally hire ghostwriters. Some people literally get into
yeah,
writing books by hiring ghostwriters or maybe AI in this day and age to write the entire book.
yeah.
They come up with a pen name and that's it. They find a book cover design, then they just throw it on Amazon and hope for the best. In fact, the person I worked with on that third book, the reason I chose him was he had published, I mean, I shouldn't put it in quotes, he did 20 something books he had on Amazon. I don't think he wrote most of them, right? He just sort of knew the
Oh,
business
wow.
model and how to
Yeah,
get things to market. So the
yeah.
fact that I didn't really need him to write, it was mostly already there. I was like, okay, well then take all my work and compile it and let's do the same thing. So timing October, I think is perfect. It's January 25th.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, that's sort of right in the middle of how long I took between
mm-hmm.
my first and second book, depending on how long
With that
this is.
second book, the one that took 15 months, you had a deadline on the first one? You were like, I got to do this by New Year's.
Yeah.
Did you give yourself a deadline on the second one, or was that kind of part of you said you
Yeah.
thought it would take about 6 months, but that's not a deadline, right? So
Yeah.
was
Good.
that part of that, do you think?
I think that was part of it. Part of it was COVID. That hit. That's a thing.
I
So,
heard of that. Did that
yeah.
happen in your hometown? Weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Apparently. So that slowed me down. I just kept changing it. I don't know. I just kept overthinking it.
Hmm.
And specifically, it was a book about money hacks. And I had started with like 200 and I whittled it down to 101 of my favorites. And from there, I just kept changing my mind and taking ones out and adding in new ones. So you know what? That's a mistake. That's the importance of outlining, though. I think it highlights that. Outline and stick with it, because once you start overthinking it, it's really easy to overthink it, right? And I continue to research as I'm writing to an outline, which is just a bad idea, because inevitably I'm going to find something great I love. And now I have to spend time thinking about what to cut, because that 101 was the number I was going to go with. So I spent more time on the book design. I found someone with experience in the design field. I just was finding people that I trust a little bit more. I was willing to pay a little bit more to like really nail this. The other thing I did was I spent 2 or 3 months, even when the book was almost ready, I could put it on Amazon, thinking about go-to-market, sort of marketing term, strategy for how to promote this thing. How do I have a major splash when this thing is available? How do I have 100 sales on day one, or 200 or 300? So I was trying to get organic press, like any like podcasts, if I could do it, writing about it. I had in fact, I put out a whole YouTube video of like, I should send to you, like 20 ways, my whole like model for how I was going to promote this book. And so that was part of that process of the 15 months. I was trying to promote the heck out of it. And I didn't really think through it until I was mostly done, as we talked about earlier. And when you get to that point, let me know, because there's a lot of things I did that did not work. And we're just total reaching out to bookstagrammers, I think that's what they're called, trying to get them to, I'll send you a free copy if you promote it on your channel.
Right.
And there are a lot of really scammy sites out there. So you got to be careful that are, I found people that wanted to charge thousands and thousands to edit the book. People that promised, we can get your book in bookstores. Like, we're a publishing service. This is what we do. We're a marketing agency. Literal scams on the internet. So don't.
I mean, and when I left the corporate world several years back, and I did some consulting, and after that, and there are so many businesses out there that promise how easy everything is in the world and how they can help, and
red flag,
and I'm like, I spent some money on courses that I shouldn't have, and so now I'm like super, I don't know, skeptical. I'm kind of skeptical about some of that stuff.
I would say that when you get to that point, the 2 things to focus on, I had the right mindset of like day one, week one, as many sales as I could get, really have an excellent launch. And there's a lot of different ways you can have a street team. Obviously leverage your network, right? If 1 out of 3 people buy, that alone could get you to however many sales as a goal. But the other piece that I would say is even more important than sales is, because sales is almost like an ego thing, right? The thing that's really important is the reviews, because that's what's going to help your book be successful long term
in SEO. And right.
I've seen a lot of people have an amazing launch because all their friends and family bought it and supported them day one, and then it just goes to zero, right? And they get lost in the algorithm. And again, unless you try like paying for ads or something, it's really hard to climb out of that. So that should always be your goal for a book launch, is reviews that first week. Because think about it, when you're shopping, right? I'm sure you leverage reviews a lot. And you want authentic, because actually one of the best things you can get is like a 2-star review that has nothing that negative to say. Like someone gave me like 2 stars and was like, really great content, but there were a few typos. And it's like, if someone's sorting by worst review and that's what they saw, like, I'm a self-published, nobody. Of course. So, but I think like I think I have, I range between like 40 and 75 reviews, and that's, I mean, I'd love to get to 100, but that's enough to sort of help you rank higher too when people search. Sales is a piece of that, but also reviews. And also SEO. Think about that. I know you mentioned you've thought about your title. I tried to think about terms that people would actually type in, like early retirement or money hacks, things like that, which I didn't. And then you get to use, you can do a subtitle and it can be really long. So that's another great opportunity to stuff it with keywords that people might actually search on Amazon, because that's your ultimate goal, is and then I remember I put out a video. So one of my first YouTube videos, how to train your Amazon. And I tried to show people, all right, my book is for sale, but here's what I want you to do. I want you to search, my key term. I don't even know what it is anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And scroll as long as you have to, and then find my book and buy it, because that's training Amazon to know, oh, when people search this term, we should promote this book a little bit more. So it's those little things that matter. But if you're in marketing, this is the fun stuff. Anyone else like writing a book, this is like, oh God, I have to promote it too. Like,
I know that's like a little bit like,
you have to think about SEO and like, you don't have to. Just finishing the book is enough. If you're not trying to get famous or make a ton of money, just again, helping you leverage this into speaking engagements, using it as your business card. And I actually think that the thing you said earlier was really important and undervalued for a lot of people. It's helping you find your voice, like, helping you tell your story. Like I love now telling the story of my first book, or or just my philosophy about money and mindset and things like that. Is I developed a lot of that and learned a ton as I went. And now I finally feel like I have like a voice or a personality, or at least a point of view. People ask, and I know how to talk about it so much better than I ever thought I'd be able to. So underrated piece of that you'll get out of it. So
that's cool. That's cool. I don't know that I can think of any other questions right now, but I know that as I
you'll think of I wanted to mention the most important person you won't be able to do this alone. You're already, willing to, ask questions and get help. So it's awesome. The most important person you'll need in your progress here is an editor. So just sort of flag that in the back of your mind. You don't need to go hunting for one right this second. But a good editor is so key. They're worth the money. That's definitely where I've always spent the most. I think I've spent between, and again, I'm a frugal money guy, so I had to do this on a budget. Between like $400 and $800. You probably expect to pay a little bit more than that, honestly, if you really want a quality editor. I was going to people that were passionate about the topic and like editing or writing in general, but didn't necessarily have a lot of experience. I put out like ads on Craigslist. But then once you find a good editor, try to keep them around. But editor is key. Someone that just isn't scared to cut things and give you critical feedback and all that, just in the spirit of making the book better. Yeah,
that's good. The girl in the mastermind that does email marketing, she's a copywriter, and so I don't know if she does book editing, but she's in a world that she probably could connect me with someone for sure. So
and she might be great at helping. I mean, and you can always use extra eyeballs. I was asking for friends and family just to like read an early draft, and if willing, and a Google Doc is a really great way to do this because they can suggest edits and things like that. And that's, even if I wrote the book in Scrivener, I would export it and put it into a Google Doc and hand that to the editor just so that they could suggest edits, and I don't have to accept every single edit, but I usually did. So but yeah, don't worry about that until if you're aiming for October, July maybe, because then you want to have it sort of done and buttoned up by late August, because then you give yourself a month or so to create those other versions of the book, and then think about sort of a marketing, how you want to go out there. There is one really cool benefit. I said I didn't want to overwhelm you. Now I just feel like I'm diving into everything. Well, this is recorded, so you can watch this anytime. There is one benefit to getting a bunch of sales on day one that I don't want to undersell, which is you can get the little best new release badge that Amazon would automatically add. I don't know long-term how much that really helps. Again, it's kind of an ego thing. I can say I'm a 3-time #1 new release best-selling author. Depending on your category, it's not that hard to get that badge. We can, I realize it's been an hour, so we can wrap soon as well. Unless there's anything else. What else can I
have plenty to work on right now. This has been great. Thank you so much for this. Cause I mean, I I had no idea where to even, kind of like start or what to be thinking about. And I
Yeah.
think you really helped me nail down what I should be thinking about, but more importantly, what I should not think about right now.
Yeah. Not
Like
right
put this
now.
on the table for later, or put this
Yep.
on, like take that off the table completely, and just focus on the content,
Yes.
start getting those ideas down on paper, the outlining, like, so, and that doesn't feel overwhelming. So I think that you helped me
Good.
prioritize a little bit.
Yeah. And all that stuff that maybe sounds overwhelming, like honestly, when it's your first book, that ends up being sort of the fun part because
Yeah.
especially like editing, finalizing that book when you're just that last hurdle you need to get over to finish the book can be a little bit daunting. You're so anxious to be done. But once you have a clean manuscript in your hand and you're ready to go, like now it gets really fun. Now I got to go sell this thing and like launch this and hype this up. And that can be work to someone else. But I think to someone like you, I think you'd have a blast. Like,
Yeah, no, I definitely am gonna have fun when we get to that point. Like the getting the word out about it.
yeah,
I don't know how many people I'll get, how many people I'll reach, but I
sure.
will have a lot of fun talking about it for sure.
And
Yeah.
it'll sell forever. That's what's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't sell a lot,
Yeah.
maybe between all my books, 7 or 8 a day, maybe, but that's freaking
so
cool. And I don't do anything
that is
anymore
really cool.
except mention it on YouTube,
Yeah.
as often as I can without being annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to promote yourself. Don't be scared to do
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah, for sure.
awesome. Thank you for
Yeah.
I obviously love this topic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get really excited anytime like a friend reaches out or something like, hey, I'm thinking about writing a book. And I'm like, oh, you don't know. Now we're going to talk and I'm going to hold you to it and it's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Well,
Cool.
thank you so much, Frankie. I really appreciate it. I've got your number now and your email. So
Awesome.
watch out.
Don't hesitate. No, that's great. So, and maybe we connect again the same way in the future. So, and
sounds good.
at my YouTube project this year, I'm trying to build a new passive income stream every month, sort of like a challenge. So one of these months, I am going to write another book and sort of, share this whole process on video and everything else. So I'll let you know when that month is happening and at least send you the videos or something like that. But I'm excited and terrified. I'm going to try to do it all in 30 days. And it's not an easy topic to take on. So it's not like last time where I could just like pay someone to help me organize it. So it'll be fun. That's the point. So we'll see.
I love ambition.
Yeah, right. Well, best of luck.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Good luck.
Okay, bye.
Thank you for watching. Again, if you or someone you know is interested in writing their first book or interested in self-publishing, let's get connected. There's a link on screen and in the description to a quick form. Fill that out and I'll be in touch. Let me know if you have any specific questions about the book process in the comments. Otherwise, subscribe if you haven't. Becky's Instagram and TikTok that she mentioned are in the description along with some of the resources I mentioned. Otherwise, have an awesome week or weekend ahead and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching that whole thing.